Well, welcome to Sikorski's Thinkabouts on the Daily Blue. I'm your host, Laura Sikorski. Our show actually has been on since September 8th, and we're very excited about it, but it appeals to all levels of management. Our goal is to have guests who speak about different items working on operations, technology, customer service, customer experience. And we want to help you and your customers reach you, speak about issues that they have without having any problems. And today our guest, and I am very excited to have Vikram Rajan with us, he responded to a blog and was interested in being a guest. And he is co-founder of flownblogger.net along with Mark Bullock. And Vic started a company many years ago, about 9 years ago, called Practice Marketing Advisors. And they primarily were marketing consultants. And as a side, which is his company in professional services, worked for attorneys, CPAs, etc. And they had a lot of issues that you have to deal with when you're doing marketing for that professional service. He is also a columnist for the American Institute of CPAs, and he does CLE classes for the various bar association. And Vic has written a book, 365 Personal Brand Marketing Thumb Rules. Now that's a mouthful, and it's available in any bookstore. But Vic and I were talking before the show, and I'm always very interested in how companies start and what your founding methodology was. And I'm really intrigued on how you started Phone Blogger and it became your core competency.
Yeah.
So Vic, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Laura. So phonblogger.net is now, LinkedIn told me about 2 weeks ago that we're celebrating the 4-year anniversary. Kind of came out of the blue with us. You know, we're pretty busy, so we're not really counting down the days of the 4 years. And honestly, for the first year and a half, it was, like you said, a side project. It was actually a favor to clients. As you said, most of our clients are boutique law firms and accounting firms, and they're usually way too busy to do all the things that we're going to be talking about. Blogging, LinkedIn, email newsletters. So my partner Mark and I, at a Starbucks, just started talking about the growth of our own company and where we could go with Practice Marketing Advisors. And one of the frustrations we felt was the frustration of our clients where they didn't have the time to sit down and write their own blog articles and optimize it for the web and publish it and then promote it through the social media like LinkedIn and email newsletters. And the two of us were talking, and we looked at each other and said, well, what if we just talked to our clients over the telephone and they just had us type it up, and while they answer frequently asked questions and share client success stories? We're like, well, why can't we do that? So we started setting up interviews with our clients, and really at no additional cost to them, we said, look, this is what we're going to do for you, not can we do it for you.
Right.
And we started audio recording short 4-minute, 5-minute interviews of them talking about these variety of subjects. And we typed it up into blog articles, gave it to them to adjust and approve, and now it's a seamless process where it's a 4-minute phone call for Phone Blogger. Back then, we had all these bumps of kind of figuring it out because no one really does this, but anyone can work with their internal staff and figure it out, or of course work with us and do it in a more convenient way.
Well, I think it's great. I love success stories like that.
Thanks.
And we certainly are excited about having you here today because you're going to help our customers, our viewers, understand the world of blogging, understand the world of emailing, and how to do it right. Yes, they can hire yourself, they can hire blue chip marketing to also help, but you know, sometimes we want to do it ourselves, like me, and so let's talk about what is a blog.
Sure. The simplest definition is that it's like a newsletter on your website. And that's pretty simple. Now, like an email newsletter, or different because it's on your website, you're enabled to have comments on it. But you can have it moderated, so to speak, so that it doesn't automatically go live, because inevitably you'll get spam, like the one we get in our inbox, we'll get on the blog website. But it's a fun way of interacting with potential clients and current customers, as well as referral relationships. And then you have the added benefit of social media. So it becomes kind of a coalescing of the email marketing and social media world right on your website.
Now, mine is not on my website. I just went to a free blogging company and said, and just set myself up and everything. But I use my own email list to do that. What do most people do to reach out to the world with their blog?
So it can be on a standalone platform like Blogger.com, which is owned by Google, or it can be on WordPress.com, which is by the Automatic company. But a lot of people know of WordPress as the type of structure or infrastructure powering their website. In fact, WordPress as a blogging platform now becomes a website platform and now powers almost 18% of the world's websites.
Wow.
Which is from anyone from UPS to Time Magazine to, I believe, CNN. They can go to WordPress.com and see all the accolades. So to get the word out, it's exactly what you're doing, because more than the search engine optimization aspect, which is tremendous, because every SEO guru out there will say content is king, and the more often you update your blog, the better, and there are a variety of other SEO aspects and impacts.
What's the definition of
Sure.
SEO?
So SEO stands for search engine optimization. Ultimately, it's how to get your website to the top of Google for a variety of keywords.
All those the names on the side. So you're
Correct. So there's
okay.
There's the two main parts of Google or any search engine. That you get the top and the right hand side, which are the ads, which have its own relevancy, meaning it's impacted by the search engine optimization, which is how often or how up you come up during the contextual natural search. So there's that world of SEO, and blogging has tremendous advantages there because of just how it's architected, how often you could post, very often because it can be very keyword heavy just by nature as opposed to manipulating Google search results. And there's a whole world out there of kind of figuring it out.
Now, is that when you're asked to put tags? Is that what a tag is?
Sure.
Okay.
So in the world of blogs, you have some jargon. So you have categories and tags. So categories, think of it as the table of contents to your book or to your blog. So it's general broad categories. So for a lot of our clients, they're practice areas, or it could be lines of service or lines of business. It's the broad brush areas. Tags and keywords are virtually synonymous. So when someone says, what are your keywords for Google or Bing or Yahoo, it's synonymous with the tags that would be part of your blog, which are like the index words to a book. So those are the micro minutia, very specific words. Now you'll probably be very repetitious with the tags, so you don't necessarily want a whole bunch of them. But with categories, you're probably going to use terminology that you're more comfortable with. If you're using practice areas, product lines, etc., that you're comfortable with. With tags, we tend to suggest that use the more colloquial layman's perspective. It's things that people would be searching for on Google.
So in my case, as a consultant, I will do customer service consultant or something like that. Okay, so for those of you out there, look at your professional, what you do as a professional services person, and start using, the blog and getting fun. It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and I guess the converse, where that would be a table of contents category, the converse would be, a tag would be less complaints or happier customers or customer referrals or things of that nature, where that's how they would say it. And you may not necessarily say you're always just helping your clients get less complaints from your customers, and probably the opposite of that. But very often that may be what they're looking to solve because they know their customers are.
Well, I know I recently wrote an article, happy employees mean happy customers.
There you go.
So, that my tags for that article were those words, and it got a lot of press.
There you go. There you go.
So how, resources for clients listening to their needs. I'm intrigued by VIP referral relationships. Explain that, please.
So blogs are an excellent way to help you achieve greater referrals from the VIP folks, meaning the folks that ought to be recommending you. They're in positions of influence, or maybe they recommend you every now and then, but now this gives them a greater opportunity. I say a catalyst, or it's an excuse to stay top of mind and to remind people of a variety of aspects. In fact, we may be talking a little bit later in terms of the types of blog articles or blog article ideas, and it very often comes down to where if people are forgetting about what you're doing or don't realize the breadth and width of what you provide as a business or a service, then there's very little way for them to recommend you for that.
That's true.
And this is the option for them to do so.
Okay, well, I guess then I had a VIP referral this morning because my blog that I issued last night it was read on a group on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
And a gentleman who is Don Hales from England sent me a request to be my connection, and then the next thing I know, he asked if he could use my blog in his newsletter. So what a great way!
It's a great full circle.
It's a great story. So for those of you that are thinking or contemplating a blog, it works. It takes work,
Takes
because
work.
you have to constantly make sure your content
Correct.
is good and active in what's happening in the world around you.
It's very similar to networking, and that's a perfect example of it being networking oriented, because one of the aspects of it you're able to do with referral relationships and people of influence is that they have newsletters, they're active on LinkedIn, they're looking for content. And if you're able to swap articles or syndicate articles like what you just mentioned, that's an excellent way of getting your blog to more people through a warm introduction.
That really is, that's great. Now, I love this. Blog about what?
Yes.
I mean,
That's the biggest second question. The first question very often is, what is a blog? And the second is, what am I going to blog about?
Yeah.
As if they
that's
don't.
what my husband asked me. He goes, what are you going to blog about? You know, and I go, I don't know. I'll figure something out.
It out.
But that's what you're saying.
Well, one of
yeah.
my favorite trick questions to do at a seminar is to ask the audience, are there any experts in the room? And then you get a very awkwardness. And I go, you're all experts, because we're all a chapter ahead at the very least in all of our companies, where we,
Right.
of course, know more in a variety of ways than our customers, because we're providing them type of service or product. And that's really where the blog articles are coming from. So I put together blogbrainstormer.com really for our clients, because we need to brainstorm blog articles for them. And there are about 28 different article ideas that are really springboards.
So our viewers can then go to Twitter?
They can go to blogbrainstormer.com.
Okay.
They can go right to that website and print it out and have a good time with it and come up with their own blog articles.
I'm going to do that myself.
It's very, very simple.
Tomorrow, everybody's going to have the same,
Oh, that's great.
same idea on their
crash
blog.
the website. That'll be a lot of fun for our host. And so we very often say the frequently asked questions, you know,
Right.
and it's sometimes tough to think about in a vacuum, but as you start kind of working your day-to-day and keeping a notepad beside you or emailing yourself whenever someone asks you a question, and you're like, yeah, I've answered that tons of times before, perfect, that's a blog article.
Right.
And we also say the exact diametrically opposite of that, where someone just asks you a question and you're like, that's so rare, we never get asked that. Well, that's also a very peculiar situation. It's also very interesting. So the frequently and infrequently asked questions, it's the kind of hard to pin down in between.
So the 4 favorites.
See, some of my favorites, you know, the 28 ideas, you know, they're like having pets or children. It's kind of hard to pick which ones, but I have ones definitely that are my go-to. For example, my favorite ones that I like clients to do is the I told you so article. I don't know about you, Laura, but I'm sure you've had situations, others have had situations, where you've told your client not to do something. And for whatever reason, they went ahead and did it anyway. Or you told them to do something, and for some reason they ignore you, and they did the opposite, and now you have to essentially fix the mess. And you really feel like saying, I told you so. And of course, you being gracious, you would not say that.
Right.
But the blog can be an opportunity for you to vent. And if you have a sense of humor about it, without being arrogant or smug, there are definite lessons to learn from the I told you so article. The why I am is also a favorite of mine. It's kind of why you are the way you are. It kind of peels the onion layers back and helps people understand and appreciate why you do what you do for a living, or why are you representing that product.
Now, when I write from a personal perspective. You know, these are my thoughts.
Correct.
This is my opinion. This is what I think. Is that what we should do in a blog? Is it more of a personal approach to business?
You know, we talk about AVP a lot, which is a made-up term for us called author voice preference, and it's just a term that has stuck. And it's really that, going into, well, how do you want your blog to be taken? Because it's your blog and it's however you want. Some people want it to be more traditional and white paper oriented, like a journalist, and write in the third person and be that much traditional writing. Others want to go much more colloquial and personal, and will kind of use creative grammar and not necessarily be poor writing or typos, but nonetheless write the way we speak in a very casual, conversational way. That tends to be my preference, but not every lawyer sees it that way.
Yeah,
Not
because
every
I know
accountant.
I do some press releases for 100 Women Who Care About Long Island, and one of our sponsors is longisland.com,
Sure.
and she's always writing back to me, you need to write in the third person, you know,
Right.
she said, because we are, you know,
Correct.
we have to be correct when it goes out in Google,
Correct.
especially if we're doing a press release,
Correct.
a formal press
Correct.
release.
If it's a formal press release, journal, and I my go-to for my clients saying, do you want it written like a newspaper article, or do you want it to be like a seminar? And that kind of gives them a perspective, because a seminar, they would probably be themselves, and it's their personality. Some lawyers have a sense of humor, some don't. Some accountants
they do have a sense of
Many do, and we all click in different ways with different people. So just be yourself,
Right.
if that's how you want it to be, or you're donning a persona and you're kind of focusing in on a role. So it's your way is the right way,
Right,
literally
right.
and in figuratively for each of us.
Okay, well, I'm really enjoying this. Okay, so let's talk about email and newsletters.
Sure.
I mean, we all get spam.
Yep.
How do we avoid
Yeah.
being in the old spam folder?
Sure.
What do we do?
So there are a couple of go-to. Well, first of all, something that many people don't realize is that you have to technically use a professional email service provider, an ESP. An email service provider, stay within the anti-spam laws. There are a variety of techniques. And what I mean by that, you must have heard companies like Constant Contact and
Oh, okay.
their competitors,
MailChimp,
MailChimp,
okay.
StreamSend, Vertical Response Campaigner. There are dozens of them, honestly. And most of them are reputable. And especially the more well-known ones. Constant Contact happens to be a public company, so they are very vigilant against spam and making sure that you're kind of following blogging best practices and email newsletter best practices. So from that aspect, some of the things are the unsubscribe options and things of that nature.
Right.
So that itself will help you not land into spam.
What
And
about
then-
your subject?
And then the subject line.
Okay.
So subject line shorter is better. Numbers are better. So the more timely, the better. So we like date-driven subject lines where it's much more it not landing into spam, because you're not going to necessarily land into spam if you're a regular sender and they have a 98.9% deliverability. So it's not really landing into the junk folder or the spam folder. It's really will people actually open it and read it. And that really goes into the subject line. It's the cover of the book. Is it attractive, and is it very short and simple and snappy? So from that aspect, we like date-driven.
So give me an example. You're writing a newsletter or an email for a lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever lawyer.
Sure. So it could be a situation, for example, will Obama be announcing immigration legislation next week, or next month's legislation, or pending or
So
end
would
of
you
year?
do it more of a question?
It could be a question. We
Okay.
prefer numbers and questions.
And questions. Okay, well, that's very
We like
interesting.
numbers and
'cause
questions.
I would have thought the opposite of that, being that, that definitely will, go in spam.
People are curious. So if it's a question, tends to pique curiosity. Numbers pique curiosity. Hence, dates have become much more timely and urgent oriented.
That's for clicking and opening.
Yeah.
But what about your Microsoft Outlook or whatever you're using, not sending that to spam? How
So
do
a couple of things. So those are more avoidance of not avoiding, for example, the word free. So I always put kind of $0 with a $sign, or zero cost, or complimentary if you really want to take up that much room. It's a longer word, so I'm not a
Right,
fan of
right.
it. I like zero cost as opposed to and with the $sign. Again, I like punctuation and symbols because it attracts the eye. So exclamation marks, maybe, but you have to be careful from the spam perspective. Question marks are great for that reason. Percentage signs are great for that reason. $signs are great for that reason. But you don't want to overdo it, and definitely avoid
understand.
caps, like all caps, like this.
Yeah.
You don't want this to be a subject line, because this is going to be all caps and it would be like yelling at it. And spam filters won't like that either. And don't send out attachments. Attachments also. Now, most of these email service providers won't allow that for the same reason. But if you're sending it through Outlook, that's an issue.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you've got to be careful if you're using Outlook for an email blast, because it could be against the anti-spam laws.
Interesting. So we know that email and newsletters obviously reach more people.
Sure.
People do check more email. Because I know I don't. Sometimes I don't know. I get so much stuff, and it's between email, faxing, texting, messages. How do you
Faxing.
prioritize? Well, yeah. In my
all right.
industry, we still do get
All right, fair
faxes. Why do people do that to themselves? I just don't understand.
Well, it's maybe a generational thing. My phone's never, 10 feet away from me. And we're all drowning in email. I don't think that'll ever end. And in fact, if anything, people tend to try to run to LinkedIn and try to do that way, or go back to direct mail because they feel that's much more effective. And it's really kind of, it's all of the above as opposed to any one method. the fun thing about email is from a tracking perspective, you're able to literally know who's opening your
who's
email,
clicking
who's
in
clicking
and
on
stuff.
specific links. So to see the track results are phenomenal. And that's why people do email marketing.
Well, believe it or not, we are at our 20 minutes.
All right.
So
wrap
let's
it
kind
up.
of just, we have one or two more slides. You know, ask your customers, are you asking and listening? Let's kind of, what was your
Sure.
purpose of this slide?
Sure. It's, I think, one of the beautiful aspects of social media and email marketing and then blogging is how interactive it is. And that is not a radio show. It's not a one-way. Even radio shows like to do a call-in for that reason. We're tweeting in for this reason because we want to keep it interactive. So the whole point of this is not really for us to spew what we want to say, but really looking and listening for what our customers want to know about and hear about. And from a customer service perspective, one of the main advantages that corporations are turning to Twitter is from a customer experience perspective, to be on the pulse of their customers' wants and needs and potential frustrations and alleviate it as quickly as possible. Because the only thing worse than a frustration is a festering frustration.
Absolutely. I know, and especially in the customer arena, I mean, 150,000 people can be reached immediately.
Correct.
You know, on a social media,
Correct.
as opposed to years ago, you know, that it was like the phone thing, you know,
Yep.
5 people tell 5 people, etc.
And, you know, they said, you know, if you have a good experience, you tell one person, you have a bad experience, you tell 10 people, and now you're on Twitter, you send it to 10,000 people.
Exponentially
Correct.
continues.
So from that aspect, it's very, very important too. It's not really about what you're posting, it's about what you're commenting on.
Right.
And if other people are talking about you or should be talking about you, maybe they are talking about a frustration or an issue that you solve as a product or a service, but they just don't know. And
Right.
you're able to interject and, without being pitchy or salesy, offer that help, because they'll inevitably become a customer and a raving fan.
Totally agree. So, of course, we have our Think Abouts, folks. You know, the website as a resource, not a brochure. I think that's an excellent
Sure.
statement. You know, my website just is more brochureware. I haven't updated it for
But you've
years.
got a blog, so that's...
But I have a blog, so now that's exciting. You know, involve others. I think that's a great think about for when you're doing your blogs.
And if I could just say for a moment, I think that's an excellent concept of involving staff, using the blog as an opportunity to congratulate and thank your team. I think it's important. Plus, they're able to be guest bloggers and bring them up into the forefront.
Sure. Right. So, you know, right now it's almost 2015, so all of us really do need to think about our blogs and the future. One final question, and this was a Twitter question: how long should a blog be or a newsletter be? I mean, I get some and they're just on and on.
Well, it's, you know, there's a couple of things there. A, it's your blog, so you can do whatever you want with it, that's first of all. And then there's the KISS principle, keep it short and simple. In terms of real numbers, we tend to say that a newspaper column is around 700 words. And a blog should be half of it. So it should be around 300 to 400 words. Now you'll start to hear people say that longer copy, longer blog articles are even better, that up to even 1,000 words, which a 1,200 word article or a 2,500 word article, these are like magazine length.
That's too long.
And it becomes, you know, if someone's sitting there for more than 2 to 3 minutes, do you really have their attention span? Now, if you're writing a white paper, it makes sense. But if you're looking for this to be a customer article or a marketing piece, you want it short and snappy.
Right. Right. Well, Vic, this has been a great show. I thank you so much for being with us. To reach Vic, he's at vic@phoneblogger.net, or phone is 516-642-4100. And we really had a great time today. I can't believe that our show is just coming to an end again. It seems like we just start. Next week's show, November 17th, my guest will be Susan A. Hayes. She is the Resourceful Management Consultant, and our topic is going to be getting results by building relationships. And that's not only networking relationships, but getting relationships with your customer so you have the brand loyalty. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.